Fans in Las Vegas and around the nation pause for a moment of silence, remembering NBA legend Kobe Bryant. Authorities in Los Angeles now say the former Lakers star was one of 9 people killed earlier today in a helicopter crash. Bryant's 13-year-old daughter was also on board. There were no survivors. You're looking now at a live picture out of Calabasas, California. That's northwest of LA, where that crash happened late this morning. Thank you for joining us. I'm Steve Wolford. Gerard is off tonight. We have team coverage on this tragedy, beginning with NBC's Dan Shinneman with the very latest on the crash.
It was about 10 a.m. local time when witnesses saw a helicopter that appeared to be in trouble.
I see it was very low and struggling the engine. You can see, tell it was not really running.
Later, the news was confirmed. A basketball legend was on board.
There were no survivors. We have a manifest that indicates that there was 9 people on board the aircraft, the pilot plus 8 individuals.
Bryant and his 13-year-old daughter were on board. They were traveling to a basketball game at Bryant's Mamba Sports Academy.
This will only devastate all the basketball community and all the people who love sports, because Kobe Bryant truly was one of the great sportsmen of our generation.
Fans began to gather near the scene of the crash.
Just disbelief. It's Kobe. He's invincible.
I'm just numb right now. I can't find words right now.
Bryant was an 18-time NBA All-Star and won 5 NBA titles during 20 seasons with the LA Lakers. Kobe Bryant was 41 years old. Dan Shinneman, NBC News.
We also know that Kobe Bryant has several family members here in Southern Nevada. We've been told they're on their way to Southern California. We continue our team coverage now with our sports director, Brian Salmon. And Brian, you recently spoke to Kobe at a ball game.
I did. It's very sad news. Yes, the news of Kobe Bryant and his daughter's passing was a major shock to not only the world of sports, but the world in general. For a sports guy like myself, who's had small professional dealings with Kobe in various markets throughout the years, the news was especially tough and personal. The day you're referring to, Steve, was May 19th of 2019 at Mandalay Bay's Event Center for the Aces season opener versus the LA Sparks. And if that's not sad enough, Kobe's daughter Gianna, who tragically passed in the crash as well, was with him. I talked to Kobe about the atmosphere inside the Event Center for the Aces game and Las Vegas as a booming sports market. And this was his reaction.
Las Vegas is becoming a sports hub. With the Knights, we all know what they've been able to do. Football coming, WNBA here. It's truly becoming a sports city. We're out here for a basketball tournament. So I have my girls team out here, and there's no better way to learn than to come watch the pros do it.
Now, I also had an opportunity to speak with former UNLV running rebel Marcus Banks, who was briefly a Laker and knew Kobe Bryant personally. You'll want to hear that interview and what he had to say. I'll have that during News 3 at 6 p.m. But for now, let's get it back to you, Steve.
All right. Thanks, Brian. Sports legends, celebrities, and politicians have been reacting to the news of Kobe Bryant's death on social media. Former Lakers star Shaquille O'Neal tweeted, "There are no words to express the pain I'm going through with this tragedy of losing my niece Gigi and my brother Kobe Bryant." Kareem Abdul-Jabbar tweeted, "Most people will remember Kobe as the magnificent athlete who inspired a whole generation of basketball players." As this tragic story continues to unfold, be sure to stay with News 3 on the air and on news3lv.com for the latest developments. Health officials are on high alert tonight after the CDC confirms a 5th case of the coronavirus in the U.S. 2 of the patients are in Southern California. 1 is in Arizona. The 2 previously confirmed cases are in Illinois and Washington State. Health officials say all 5 patients recently traveled to Wuhan, China, which is the epicenter for the virus. Worldwide, the coronavirus is blamed for more than 50 deaths. None, though, are in the U.S. The coronavirus is having an impact on the Valley. This is a live look at the Mandalay Bay Event Center, the Mandalay Bay Hotel, where 7 performers of Michael Jackson 1 sat out of last night's show as a precaution. They'd recently traveled to China, but were not in the vicinity of Wuhan. They're scheduled to be back on stage for tonight's show. A lot of people around the Valley have been reunited with some family treasures they thought they might never see again. New at 5, Alexis Goree is here to explain how some Good Samaritans went the extra mile after a Henderson portrait studio suddenly closed. Alexis.
Right, Steve. Some good news today. Hundreds of families over the week have come to pick up their photos thanks to the leasing agent and property manager who decided to open the doors. The leasing agent tells me the portrait company filed for bankruptcy, and when it was denied, they packed up shop, telling no one.
Be happy we found it.
Moments like these are why leasing agent Penny Menlovic made sure these canvases found their homes.
And all the bad news that we're hearing today, it's just nice to put a smile on someone's face.
Portrait Innovations, a family portrait studio, suddenly closed its doors nationwide earlier this month without a warning to customers.
I was really offended by the whole thing because I felt like if you knew you were closing, why are you going through all this Christmas stuff, taking all these people money, getting all these people ready for these things, and you just leave us high and dry.
Nicholas Brown says it's a tradition, capturing these memories of his 2-year-old son. But after calls went unanswered, Brown and his wife began worrying.
It's more of a relief to be able to get the picture because it's the memories that are more than anything.
Finally getting his hands on the canvas, he says you can't put a price on.
Like, these things are going to be around forever. Like, it's everything that matters is that face.
And Menlovic says if you didn't get a chance to pick up your pictures yet, you still have time, brief time. You can leave a note at the studio or give her a call. We have the details on our website, news3lv.com. I'm Alexis Goree reporting. Steve, back to you.
All right, thanks, Alexis. The 6th annual Las Vegas Progressive Summit officially wrapped up this evening. The 2-day event was hosted by Battleborn Progress and featured Democratic presidential candidate Tom Steyer, who made an appearance there earlier today. The summit invites advocates and activists to take part in panel discussions about the progressive movement. Still ahead, a war of words. Democrats call for new witnesses in the impeachment trial as President Trump launches a new defense.
And just a beautiful sunset going on out there. We've got some sun in our forecast too and some warm temperatures. You're going to like my Weather Authority forecast up ahead.
And welcome back. A war of words today between President Trump and the lead House manager in his impeachment trial. It comes only hours before the White House lawyers resume their defense of the president on the Senate floor. But as NBC's Jennifer Johnson reports tonight, it's still unknown if the Senate Majority Leader will allow new witnesses to testify.
One day after his defense team began presenting its case, President Trump is on the attack. His target, the lead House manager in the Senate impeachment trial, Congressman Adam Schiff. The president tweeting he has not paid the price yet for what he has done to our country. Schiff has said Republicans are ignoring the facts because they're afraid of the president.
I made the argument that it's going to require moral courage to stand up to this president. And this is a wrathful and vindictive president.
Republicans defending the president's tweet.
I think what he's saying is political. What the president's saying is he's going to be held to a price.
Democrats are still calling for new witnesses to testify, including former National Security Advisor John Bolton. The president has said he may invoke executive privilege to stop Bolton from talking.
I think if you're innocent and you have witnesses that can support your innocence or documentation, you would freely be willing to hand that over.
The White House defense team continues its case Monday, arguing the president did not abuse his power nor obstruct Congress's investigation. Democrats spent 3 days presenting their case last week.
I think they presented the strongest case they could present on their facts, but they didn't come close to alleging impeachable offenses.
White House lawyers are expected to wrap up their arguments quickly, then the fight over witnesses will begin. Jennifer Johnson, NBC News, Washington.
Be sure to stay with News 3 for the latest on the impeachment trial of President Trump. You can also stay up to date by downloading the News 3 app and follow us on social media. Coming up next, we're getting to know another presidential candidate. We'll go in depth with Mayor Pete Buttigieg in this week's campaign conversation. Please stay with us. I missed the commercials.
Much more ahead on the death of Kobe Bryant. The coronavirus is spreading in the U.S., plus my visit with John.
For many Democratic voters, Mayor Pete Buttigieg is their top presidential candidate. But a year ago, most Americans had never even heard of him. Buttigieg was elected as the country's youngest mayor in a city of more than 100,000 people. In this week's campaign conversation, Chief Political Correspondent Scott Thuman explains how the man known as Mayor Pete believes he can become President Pete.
In western Iowa and in a junior high gym, several hundred curious have braved the snow and sub-zero wind chill to hear from a candidate whose name they're still learning to pronounce, but whose policies have more than piqued their interests.
There have been so many interviews, there's been so much television out there. For you to be at the center of all of this political mayhem right now, is it a little crazy for you?
It's like a hiring committee. You know, they're kicking the tires on our plans. They're looking us over. And one of the great things about the process as it comes through these early states is you really have to look voters in the eye.
Though Pete Buttigieg is facing more than just voters. He's facing someone as a student he once praised so highly, it won him the John F. Kennedy Profiling Courage Essay Contest.
I was a high school student. You had to write an essay about somebody who showed courage. And so I picked this obscure congressman from Vermont, Bernie Sanders. But it is kind of comical to find myself on stage competing with somebody that I was writing about when I was in high school.
Does it seem a little odd to go toe-to-toe with him?
We have a somewhat different message, and I think it's safe to say I represent a very different messenger.
Is Bernie Sanders a potential running mate?
I suppose nothing is impossible.
There are, a handful of candidates at this point who are roughly twice your age. Does America need a younger president?
Well, I do think that America is ready to turn the page, and one way to do that is by empowering a new generation of leadership.
He does stand out, not just for his youth — he turned 38 the day after our interview — or his service in Afghanistan, but for what would be a presidential first. How big of a factor do you think being openly gay either helps or hurts you in this race?
I actually don't think that it will be that big of a factor on most voters' minds. It's about one question that a voter is asking, and it's, how's my life going to be different if you're president instead of you? If I have the best answer to that, then I think a lot of these other things kind of wash away.
But there is this narrative out there that you're just not going to do well with black voters. How do you counter that?
Well, we just have to go out there and prove it wrong. There's definitely more work to do in the South, where voters, frankly, with very good reason, are very skeptical of anybody, even Democrats.
Often unflappable, but not always. Some things do bother the Harvard and Oxford grad.
Pretty much any time I open Twitter, I'm biting my lip pretty hard.
Okay, let's do a little lightning round. Medicare for all.
Medicare for all who want it. That's my proposal. Let people choose.
Legalizing marijuana?
Yes.
Free college.
So my plan would make it free for the first 80% or so of Americans, and then a sliding scale. But if you're in that top group, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and pay your own tuition.
Should ICE be abolished?
We're going to need some agency in charge of our immigration. The problem isn't just the agency, it's these cruel policies. And on my watch, they will not be in the business of separating families.
Give me a childhood hero.
The first time I ever wrote a fan letter was to Robert Ballard, the oceanographer who found the Titanic.
Did you get a return?
Actually, I did. Yeah, they wrote back. And he wrote some very complimentary things about the designs that I proposed for an unsinkable ship, even though it was done in crayon.
In how many languages can you say the word president?
6-ish.
What makes you nervous?
Being late. Every minute that we are behind schedule, I get a little more agitated.
So hopefully we're still on schedule. But what is something that nobody really knows about you yet?
I think sometimes people don't always see how passionate I am, but I wouldn't be doing this if I weren't very, very fired up about what's happening in our country and where we could go together.
You think it translates?
That's for others to decide.
All right, from Scott Thuman, let's go to Jerry Brown. And new work week coming up. Make it nice, please.
Oh, very, very
Make it
nice.
Presidential.
Presidential, absolutely. You're going to love this forecast. We might have one little blip midweek, some wind, but otherwise just smooth sailing into February. Can you believe that? Take a look at it today. The forecast was for sun and high clouds. We actually had some mid-level clouds as well, and that suppressed temperatures a few degrees, but we were still into the 60s, and at least one station in the valley hit 70 degrees and on a 70. There are the clouds looking to the west, and you'll see a rapid clearing as the sun sets, and we are looking at clearing skies tonight. Iverson Elementary, sunrise, Northeast Valley, that's an on a 70. We had a few stations that had 69.5 plus. We round that off, but this was over 70 degrees. They're at 65 now, the west wind at 4, relative humidity 30%. Low 60s, low to mid 60s out in the northwest. Centennial, Schirkenbach Elementary, 59 now with a south wind at 3, 40%, pressure at 29.95, and the warmest thermometer in Henderson was down at Horizon and in Greenway. They were at 64. Fay Galloway Elementary, they have a southeast wind at 2 and pressure close to 30 inches. Downtown Las Vegas, that's right here at KSNV, 62. Downtown Henderson, Water Street, 63. The Lake, 60. We've got some 50s out on the far west side of the valley, also to the southwest Southern Highlands in at 59 degrees. It's 55 in Indian Springs, 40 up at the Lodge on Mount Charleston. Pahrump, 62. Same reading in Mesquite. and 71 still all the way down in Laughlin, the Colorado River Valley. Today's high officially 65 degrees. Hey, it was a couple of degrees short of what I thought, but still 6 above normal. We were 5 above normal on the low end, so our 19th day above normal this month, and we're 63 top of the hour to 59 at LAX, 49 at Reno, and a chilly 37 up at Salt Lake. Hey, it's still winter out there back east. There's a pretty good storm spinning around in eastern Canada, and that's sending cold air into New England. Meanwhile, there's been a mess of moisture moving along the Gulf Coast. For us, you'll see some radar returns, but they're staying aloft. We're not getting surface reports. Outside chance of a sprinkle, probably in the mountains tonight, but I'm talking outside chance. The energy is up here to the north, and that's where it's going to stay, and we're heading into some sunshine. What we've got to do is shake these clouds, these residual clouds from the system up north, and I think we're going to do a better job of that tomorrow. Clearing skies overnight, northwest winds 5 to 10 and mid-40s in the city. Overnight lows, I mean, it is still winter, but these could be a lot worse. We're not approaching records in any sense of the word. Tomorrow, highs should be up 2 to 3 degrees over today, courtesy of some more sunshine. We'll go 67. Another mild day, but there will be the only fly in the ointment, a north wind at 10 to 15, but it'll be closer to 10 than 15. 48 at 8 a.m., 63 at noon, 66 at 4 p.m., down from that afternoon high. And the 7-day forecast, Steve, you asked for a nice forecast. I think this delivers. Next weekend, it's going to be like dreamland. The first weekend in February, and we're talking low 70s. Wow. Which is amazing, and copious amounts of sunshine. We do have a little system Tuesday night into Wednesday, but it looks like it's going to come through dry with just some wind.
Beautiful. Thanks, Jerry. Well, a new life begins only seconds before a natural disaster. Still ahead, details on an earthquake that rocked a hospital delivery room. Stay with us.
Much more ahead on the death of Kobe Bryant. The coronavirus is spreading in the U.S. Plus, my visit with John Bon Jovi and his wife Dorothea about their new restaurant helping college students who don't have enough for food. Ahead on Nightly News.
Well, that's all right, because they don't know who Mick Jagger is.
Get off this cloud.
Is that live video right there? No, that can't be.
Video.
Man. That thing hit hard because there were the two biggest chunks of that helicopter were about 100 yards apart. A bittersweet story tonight out of eastern Turkey, which continues to be rattled by aftershocks following a deadly earthquake. This video shows the shaking as a midwife was cleaning a baby that had just been born at a hospital in Malatya. The mother and baby are both healthy and no one was hurt in the hospital, but the 6.8 magnitude earthquake killed 40 people and injured more than 1,600. It's been followed by hundreds of aftershocks. 2 people are now on probation, forced to pay $10,000 for stealing survival equipment from a doomsday castle in South Carolina. The castle owners say the fortress was built in preparation for the end of the world. It's fortified with sheet metal windows. It also has a fully functional medieval-style gate and is stocked with enough food to feed the family for years. The UN patron of oceans has completed his most perilous accomplishment yet by swimming under the East Antarctic ice sheet. Louis Pugh swam for more than 10 minutes to call for the creation of marine protected areas around Antarctica. He completed the feat wearing only his Speedo swimming trunks, cap, and goggles. Eastern Antarctica holds the record for the Earth's lowest recorded temperature.
This ice sheet is melting, and when the water goes down underneath the ice sheet, down the rivers, down moorlands, it lubricates the bottom, and that makes the whole thing unstable. And if we don't get a grip of this situation and start taking action now in terms of cutting carbon emissions and getting serious about climate change, this ice sheet becomes unstable.
Pugh calls his latest achievement a symbolic swim and says the whole area is being threatened by the melting. It's now the youngest of its kind, but it's still about 9 million years old in the greater scheme of things. Coming up next, see where a new species of walking shark has been discovered. Stay with us.
And coming up at 6 o'clock, we'll be live at the Thomas & Mack with reaction.
Oh, that's weird.
It is kind of weird, yeah. Should I move it? I saw that video. I think we used it yesterday.
Out to 2.
And coming up at 6 o'clock, we'll be live at the Thomas & Mack with reaction about Kobe's sudden passing. Along with that, though, we do have a basketball game to talk about as the Rebels took on San Diego State. We'll have all of
that. Coming up at 6, we're following new developments on the tragic helicopter crash that killed Kobe Bryant, his 13-year-old daughter, and 7 others. We'll hear from an aviation expert as the investigation into the crash gets underway.
And coming up at 6 o'clock, we'll be live at the Thomas & Mack with reaction about Kobe's sudden passing. Along with that, though, we do have a basketball game to talk about as the Rebels took on San Diego State. We'll have all of that for you later on at 6 o'clock.
Finally at 5, 4 new species of tropical sharks that use their fins to walk have been discovered in northern Australia and New Guinea. These pattern sharks are no threat to humans. They prey on small fish in shallow water. Genetic research, though, shows the walking sharks are the most recently evolved sharks on the planet, making them the youngest kind of sharks on Earth. The 4 new species bring the total number of known walking sharks to 9. That's our news for now. Please stay with us for NBC Nightly News coming up next. And for the latest news anytime, just visit us on Facebook, Twitter, and news3lv.com. We'll see you back here at 6. Until then, thank you for watching and have a nice evening.